So we'll call our regular board meeting of January the 23rd to order at 5:30. And I'd like to acknowledge that today's board meeting is being held within the traditional territory of the Denizah and Treaty 8. And I welcome tonight to Jared Bell, our Director of Instruction, who is filling in for Stephen Petrucci, our Superintendent, who is away recruiting. May he be prosperous in his recruiting. So, are there any additions to the agenda? Can I have a mover and a seconder for the agenda? Moved by Bill, seconded by Ida. All in favor? Should have called for the mover and seconder before the addition. I don't believe we have any presentations or delegations this evening. So we'll move into trustee input and we'll start with Trustee Campbell.
I don't have anything to report tonight. I've spent a few days in emergency and I haven't been to any schools or anything.
Okay. That's okay. We get to be human. Trustee Gillis.
Not much to report. I did sit down with the principal at Hudson's Hope a few weeks ago, probably last week or before Cuba, to discuss a few initiatives that I'm interested in kind of bringing forward in Hudson's Hope. So that'd be more of a parental community member role. I still very much want to get a speech competition going there and starting to think about a secondary travel trip for me and some students one day. So yeah, that's about it.
Hey. Vice Chair Lehman.
I just attended the Clearview Arena PAC AGM.
Okay.
And went to the NIB in Prince George on the weekend here.
Okay. Trustee Snow.
I've been to my schools several times over the past few weeks. Went to the NIB on the weekend. Been doing some touring around, having some fun.
Okay. Great. So I've continued to do the work related to my participation as a BCSTA representative on the FESL reviews. I was supposed to be in Maple Ridge, but they postponed the review of their FESL till April. I know Christmas was a long time ago, but I need to share this. I went to Christmas caroling at Finch, and Buddy the Elf from North Pieces musical is a former Finch alumni. And so Buddy the Elf showed up for Christmas caroling. And because though that school had gone to watch that play, the kids were so excited. And this particular student, who is Buddy the Elf, he just took it upon himself to be right in there with everybody. He led Christmas carols, he moved around the gym, he interacted with the kids, and it added so much to their field trip, and you knew it was going to be something that stuck with them for a long time. So kudos to all of our staff that were involved in both that musical and then that spontaneous follow-up, because I think Buddy went to Ambrose as well. So that was really neat to see. I sent the notes out from the board chair call. We did meet the new minister, and she will be spending time with us at the partner liaison meeting. I think that might even be coming up next week. Or 2 weeks from now. And then I did district health and safety meetings. I've been to a few Equity Scan meetings now. The first parent meeting to get input from our urban Indigenous parents will be on the 27th of January. And they're building up to that. They're doing it at the cultural center, and they are incorporating supper, survey, bingo, and then we will take and go out to see the rights holders on our reserves to get input there for the Equity Scan as well. I was at NIB, of course, and I've got some follow-up work to do on that, and maybe bringing a proposed motion related to assessment back to you after I've had a chance to do some work with Linda Dolan out of Fort Nelson. A thank you to Bill for attending the DPAC meeting for me. And that's about it. And David hasn't snuck in, so we'll move on to 5.0, which is, we'll take a look at the minutes of the regular board meeting of December the 12th, which is pages 5 to 12 in your package. Great. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by Madeline. Are there any errors or omissions? Then all in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. I think what I saw will come up further down the road in terms of policy committee. Is there anything anybody else feels is business arising? All right. Moving on then to item number 6, approval of the excerpts of the regular board meeting of November the 21st. Pretty quick. Could I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Ida, seconded by Bill. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Carried. Announcements and reminders. I want to say thank you to Bill for stepping in and doing the DPAC SUPAC meeting for me yesterday.
Yesterday.
Tomorrow.
Today, okay. Yeah, well, hey, I'm walking and talking still. It's all right. It was today. Okay.
Sorry, Helen, it's tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? Thank you. But thank you anyway, Bill. I just wanted people to know we do have somebody going. How's that?
I do have a question about the dates.
Okay.
We have graduation this week?
There's a
Right.
graduation at Presbyterian this week.
Okay. Who's,
Is anybody going? Is that the question?
you're gone. Is Stephen back for that? Sure.
Steven's going, David's going, and I'm going.
I talked to David already about possibly going out with him. Friday. Friday at 3, one of the boys told me he's graduating.
Okay, anything else?
Just trying to find out when it might be done.
I'll talk to you later about that, Bill, okay?
Yep, no problem.
Anything else to add? All right, we'll move on then to senior staff reports, and we'll start with Jared with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just get the projector warmed up. While that's warming up, I believe there's 4 items on the agenda from the superintendent's report. I will start with the January 23 reports. Do you see that? Okay. So under intellectual development is an area that I'm working on is around the K-12 reporting policy framework that has been introduced. Let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. Oh, whatever. There we go. So the province last June gave us an update around the new reporting policy framework that will be in place as of July of 2023. So in place for next school year. This doesn't affect anything to do about this school year, but this is for next school year. First group that it does affect would be our online learning school, which would still be in operation. And then everybody else starting in September. So why change is an important piece to this. Going back to 1994, I was in grade 11. And I remember vaguely something about a change in reporting for kindergarten through grade 3. And that was the last major change. There was some changes in 2016 around core competencies and some local decision-making abilities for boards to set up their own policies around that. And what happened with that is several boards throughout the province did decide to make local policies about how reporting would work, what grading scales they would use, those various pieces. And what the ministry has heard was that led to school districts right next door to each other in Metro and other areas where some families had kids going to both districts and had very different experiences with reporting and grade scales and all those kind of pieces, and it was quite confusing. So, so part of this is to align the province under the same set of rules or the same frameworks, as well as align with our current provincial assessments that we're using, both the FSA and the grad assessments in 10 through 12. So what's staying the same compared to the past is there's still going to be 5 required communications over a year. So that's the same. We normally call those 3 formal and 2 informal. Some of the language changes in these. It'll be 3 written and 2 flexible formats. And instead of the words report cards, the documents talk about a learning update and a summary of learning. I don't know if we'll ever shake the words report cards though, because we've used them for so long. But some of the documents talk about those learning updates and summaries of learning. So we're going to continue to provide written descriptive feedback to accompany a scale or a grade percentage, letter grade or percentage, And in grades 10 through 12, they'll continue with letter grades and percentages. So that's what's staying the same. Some of the things that are new is that student reporting practices will align with the BC curriculum and the provincial assessment system. The timely and responsive feedback on student learning that parents can understand. I think we've been doing the timely and responsive feedback piece, but the parents can understand is a part that's reinforced in some of the documents for educators to try in our descriptive, strength-based descriptive feedback to be as jargon-free as possible. And so one I often pick on as an example is sight words. And many people in primary are taught reading understand what a sight word is. It's a word that you regularly see. It's the word of, or at, or the. It's not something that we sound out. It's just something we recognize and we know what it is. That's my best explanation of it. But for many parents, they read sight words and they don't know what that is. So trying to avoid the jargon, sort of professional speak in our communication. There will be a unified provincial proficiency scale instead of the 3 scales, including the pilot schools, the 4 scales we use right now in K through 9. So in kindergarten right now, we use a 3-point scale. Primary, we use a different 4-point scale. And 4 through 9, we use the letter grade scale. And that will be changing to the provincial proficiency scale, which is the same that's used on FSA as well as the graduation assessments of emerging, developing, proficient, and extending, with proficient being the goal for all students. The graduation status update, we've heard this from various sources, is a desire to demystify the graduation program. And so what this looks like is that at the summary of learning, sort of end of a course or end of the year, some things to be determined on that one, is the schools will be providing a graduation status update to let parents and students know, are you on track for graduation? What credits have you completed? Haven't you completed? What grad assessments have you completed? Haven't completed? To give a better understanding. Right now, we do this in person with students. Our counselors at the high schools do this with students, but we don't necessarily send that home in a report format. So that should help demystify the grad program. The student self-assessment of core competencies and goal setting in all grades in 3 written reports. Right now, we do that at the end of the school year only, except in our pilot schools where we're doing it throughout the school year. And so this will set that expectation about the student self-assessment of core competencies, as well as goal setting. And the goal setting may or may not be around core competencies. It could be about something else. I want to build hovercraft, or I want to, learn coding, or I want to do some painting, or I want to write a story. And so a student could write about their goal and then talk about how are they going to meet their goal and then reflect on that through the year. Or it could be about the core competencies of communication, thinking, and social. The one other indicator that changes is right now we use a letter grade of I to report that students have incomplete, an incomplete, and sometimes we call it an in progress for a course. That will change to an IE, and this will be K to 12. An IE will denote insufficient evidence of learning. So the teacher can't make a decision as to what scale or letter grade or percentage I would give to a student. They'll provide an IE instead. And the last one, which I think we've done fairly well in School District 60, but all learners, including students with disabilities or diverse abilities, will receive regular communications of student learning in the same way as it appears in any other program. So that is coming up. I've been doing some work. There is a link at the top of that information that takes you to a public webpage that has a presentation that I gave to the District Parents Council, Advisory Council in September or October. I don't remember exactly when it was. And I've been doing presentations to staff with very similar information. And what we've been looking for is feedback from individuals, from teachers, from parents, from students and different community groups about this. Because the question I pose to people is, it's not about whether we do this or not. The ministry has provided this as policy, expected that we do it, but how we implement it is an important question. So we've had an open forum, and there is a link on that page for that, for people to provide feedback, and we'll be collecting that into February. And after that, staff will start working on what does the implementation look like in School District 6. Moving on to human and social development, we just want to highlight some work that's based on Senator Stan Kutcher's work around mental health literacy. And this is a professional development opportunity for grades 4, 5, and 6 teachers. We're participating in a career education pilot in K-8 with a group of our teachers. And this is one that actually came up. A school was asking me about some resources for grades 4, 5, and 6 today. And I said, oh, we have some ADST projects on our Digmore site. They're featuring a different project every month, and the project is a hands-on ADST, so applied design skills and technology projects, and they include videos and lesson plans and some assessment planning. And this month's project is a night owl. So there, if you follow that link, there is a video that shows how to make it. Under operations and HR, in partnership with our CPF for Canadian Parents for French, is looking to connect with a national initiative to welcome new immersion teachers. And I was asking the superintendent regarding these, and these are different ways to welcome new French teachers into the community, connect them to families. Maybe it's dinners at homes, you know, a drive home from the airport, those kind of pieces to welcome new teachers into our community and into our families. And I reflect on that, and that was a really key thing for me when I came here about 20 years ago, is I came up here without any family, but quickly was brought into the fold of the family, a group of just great teachers that I'm forever thankful for. And we were having a conversation about how you pronounce this, and I think we landed on Bar A. So the fitness stretching classes, Bar A is available on Wednesdays for staff from 4:30 to 5:30 at Maude Murray School Gym, and free of charge. And some items under Truth and Reconciliation around our local education agreements. There's been some continues to be action plans developed with Doig River First Nations, the implementation committee, and the group met with Halfway River First Nation on community just before the break in reviewing possible initiatives. Our Indigenous Professional Development Day is coming up on Friday, May 5th. The committee is composed of a cross-section of district groups who have been planning for this district-wide Professional Development Day. Not sure if any trustees were able to participate last year. It was an excellent session from my own personal experience. So again, this is one of our biggest professional developments, and been well received by staff. And with the move into May, hopefully the weather's a little bit nicer than it was, because it was a bit of sleet and snow and it was a bit chilly for the outside events last April. The equity scan, I think this was mentioned before in terms of a community meetings, Cultural Center, January 26th. And meetings are planned with students, the middle and secondary schools, to seek their voice and their feedback. Featured in the Take 3, there's some Buick Elementary information about the Christmas concert that took place at Buick, which is exciting. And I believe it was called, there it is, the worst hockey team. So just to mention there about, it was great to have the community back in the gymnasium, and a note to say thanks to the facilities crew for working on the floor and getting that up to snuff so we can invite everybody back in. And Hudson's Hope Elementary also featured their annual Christmas concert that was held in December. Poetry, singing, a wide variety of things, and those are always enjoyable out at Hudson's Hope. And the ELC raised over $7,000 in donations to go to their Christmas hamper fund. They were able to help out 4 families at Christmas time. And Bert Bowes has shared some pictures about activities going on outside their ice rinks, Popular Place. This was their RC club as well that meets after school twice a week. And they build a variety of structures to take their remote controlled cars over. And one last one, this was a school spirit activity promoting culture and community. That's that for the superintendent's report. Do I take questions at this point in time, Chair, or move on?
We
to the next?
usually go, you have a couple of other things, I believe, that you're reporting on for Stephen, including the proposed 3-year calendar and out-of-district field trips. So perhaps we can go through those and then we'll go through everything with
Sure.
questions afterwards.
This one also lands in my portfolio. So every 3 years, the school district puts forward a draft 3-year calendar, and then we look at that with stakeholder groups and bring it to the board, which I'm doing right now as the proposed 3-year school calendar. And the board, after this presentation, we would put this out to the public as a proposed calendar, and that would trigger a 30-day feedback period where parents or public members could provide feedback to staff, which we bring back to the board at your next board, the March board meeting for approval of the proposed calendar, which then staff would submit to the Ministry of Education and Childcare, which we're required to do by March 31st. So we need to have a look at the calendar, put it out as that for that 30-day period. Then the board would vote on the calendar to approve it for the 3-year school calendar, and then we'd submit it to the ministry. Much of this calendar in terms of when do we start and when does Christmas break land and when does spring break start and when the last day of school are in contract. So in our contract with the province, the school district, and the BCTF and the PRNTA, there is articles in there that specify where it is. So we don't have a lot of choice about what day does school start or when does Christmas break start. It is based on other days in the calendar. The only spot we really do have some choices of is some of the professional development days or planning days. And so we seek feedback from those stakeholder groups, and we put this together and bring it forward to the board to have a look at. Other items on the superintendent's report were the out-of-district sports field trips. I believe, I'm not sure, is that the right one I have up there? For the new one?
Yeah.
For 2, these were included in the package, the grade 6 trip from Ecole Central to Quebec City and Montreal, grade 5-6 trip to Worsley from Central, and a ski trip for the ELC to Worsley.
So the only thing that we'll need a motion for is related to the out-of-district field trips. So Jared, if you could go back to the original superintendent's report, and then we'll go through that item by item.
Still community coaches.
Yeah, sorry, Helen, there's still.
Oh, sorry. It's hard to see. Okay.
Right, I have the community over there.
Do you want me to zoom in on the screen, or do you guys have it up on your computers?
I'll just pull it up on my phone. It's okay.
And last item was the community coaches for board approval. And I think this is 1 page. And 3 coaches for Bert Ambrose. So try to get that. Do not want to try this way.
Yeah, I know I had looked at it all earlier, so I'm okay. All right. Now can we go back to the superintendent's report and we'll go through it section by section.
This one?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go. questions related to the K-12 reporting policy?
We're being told to do it. We can't. No, don't like it. Let's go back to the old one.
Yeah, as I've said to all the groups, it's not a question of whether we do, it's how do we implement these changes?
But what was interesting, Jared, last year in the spring, they had asked for feedback and they got feedback that wasn't really what they wanted to hear and what they'd put out. And then they were supposed to be looking at that feedback. It doesn't seem like there were any changes based on that.
You only wanted to hear feedback that was positive to what they were doing.
I'm not able to comment on the ministry's choice or whether they've done with the feedback, unfortunately.
Yeah. At the NIB this weekend, there was one district in particular that was quite concerned about the provincial concept of retention. Is this reporting policy got anything related to retention within it?
There is a lengthy document, support document. It does talk about retention as being a possibility, and it is a possibility. And when we're talking about retention, we're talking about whether students are promoted into the next grade or not. So that's retention would mean we're not promoting you to the next grade. You would stay in that grade. So some of the options are promotion. There's promotion with supports. So recognize that there were some challenges, but we're going to move you on to the next grade with supports. It may include a learning support plan or an IEP or just other tier 1 supports in classrooms, or the idea of retention, which is keeping a student back. So it does reference that in the document.
Okay.
Sort of steps you would take for each of them, or just a general what would be needed. And in the case of retention, it is parents have to consent to it. It should be done with the teacher and the school-based team involved. And quite often there's a director of instruction involved in the conversations as whether it's an appropriate method or not to support the student.
I let Jared know earlier about how outspoken individuals were about that.
I must admit, I haven't had a chance to look at the whole new policy, but I was hoping that it was covered off in there. My other question, Jared, is the terms, we know we want people to reach proficient. What are we doing as a district to standardize what that use of that term proficient is? For example, the concept of reading at level 16 at the end of grade 1 was deemed to be proficient. Are we going to do any work around standardizing our teacher expectations so that we have kids moving between schools and parents not suddenly facing a different understanding of how their child's doing?
That's definitely been some feedback is, what does extending mean? And what does proficient mean? Some of the documents talk about that in a general sense. We've got nothing from the ministry that says for each specific learning standard strand, what does proficient look like? There is a group working, and there is some members of the school district part of a pilot around an update to the BC performance standards. And whether they keep calling them the performance standards or whether they change them to proficiency standards is not quite clear. But that's focused around numeracy and literacy and an idea of what does proficient look like in numeracy and literacy. So that's sort of a major focus around that work. We've been working with various groups with learning services, curriculum and assessment principal and myself with our posts of responsibility, talking about backwards design planning. So planning with the curriculum to start with your goals in mind, and then working towards from that kind of planning to an assessment plan that focuses on what's creating either continuums or rubrics about what does proficient look like And it might be the 4-point rubric or a continuum, or it could be a single point of what do we want, what is proficient for these different learning standards. So there's a variety of training available. Some of it's mandatory for PORs. Others been through invitation for brand new staff as well as staff that have been around for a long time. So there's definitely some work and attention being paid to it. There isn't activity right now other than what I've mentioned about standardized, what does proficient look like in every single learning strand. There are literally thousands of them. It would be quite challenging to do.
I guess my other question relates to, we did have it mentioned, I think by Derek Beam when we went through Hudson Hope's framework for enhancing learning, that the concept of no letter grades is one that's going to raise some controversy. What I was wondering about is we have kids that, if there's no letter grades, K to 9, we have kids that have got letter grades, say in grade 7. Does that mean next year in grade 8, they won't be getting a letter grade?
That's correct.
Okay,
grade
so
8,
that becomes a communication thing, I guess, for school staff.
Yeah, and the ministry has provided a variety of documents, and one we put onto our website, and we'll be sharing more through the year. Timing is always a question. If we share this today, parents might misconstrue that as impacting what they're expecting to see in March.
Yeah.
Right? So those are some considerations as to when we send those pieces of information out. But we have sent out this general information to all parents a couple of times to the regular monthly superintendent's report that I do email to about 5,000 parents. And we do get some more feedback from that. So we've already started a bit of a campaign. There is going to be some more rich media pieces, or the ministry has been providing some pretty good documents to us. We've got a pamphlet right now, which is available on that website. There's 2 other ones that are a little bit more educator focused, but we could certainly share them to parents about unpacking the proficiency scale. There's a lengthy document, and I've seen some drafts of, I think, 6 or 7 other documents that are parent specific focused, to parent and teacher. I guess you can use them either way to go out here. So we're just waiting for the approval of the ministry to start sharing them.
I just raise it so that we as trustees are aware, especially when we know that there may be some concerns about it, about what our communication process has been. And I mean, one of the logical questions is, you know, for those kids that were already getting letter grades, why stop? Why not phase it? But we've been given what we're supposed to do, and that's where we see it.
So, can I just, because I
Yeah.
know I've already sat in on a PAC where this discussion came up, and if you want to talk unhappy parents, and I have to admit where I'm struggling is what and I'd like to find somewhere in all these documents a good answer, because at this point, the question, the why, because nothing new has been done, well, that's actually not really a good answer in my eyes. And I think a lot of parents say the same thing. Well, you know, why fix something that's not broken? Which I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just looking, I guess, for more reasoning behind it. And that's what parents, I think, are looking for. Like I said, I've sat into PAC meetings, and there's going to be some unhappy campers.
Yeah, we did hear some feedback from the DPAC around that change. One way to look at it is going from a 6-point scale on the letter grades down to, we're going to a 4-point scale. We're still providing a grade or a proficiency scale. We're not going gradeless by any means. We're still going to report on student progress. Rather than using 6 points in grades 4, we're going to use 4 points, which is the same as what we did in grade 3. Just with some different titles and some different meaning. So it definitely does represent a change.
So, I don't know if I read it right, but when it comes to like middle school and above kind of thing, anything below a 50 is the same grade. Is that correct?
Is
Anything below a 50, you get the same thing for it.
right
Okay.
now, if you're below a 50, that would translate into a fail or an F failure grade. Yes. Going forward, there would only be a 4 points proficiency scale: emerging, developing, proficient, and extending. If you're to compare the two, the proficiency scale, all of those represent a passing mark. I'll put those in air quotes because they don't perfectly translate. And if a student has not provided enough evidence to show that they're in the emerging category, they would get the IE of the insufficient evidence.
So it's a 5-point scale.
Yes, some people have pointed that out, that it's really a 5-point scale, that the IE represents that kind of 0 point. But you know, our aim is to get everybody into that, at very least emerging, with their goal being proficient.
Okay.
Next.
I believe.
Any other questions related to reporting policy, David?
Just so if confronted, what was the rationale, the reason they're making the change? Because when I can explain them why, I think they'll get it.
Yeah, I think the alignment piece was an important one, because going back to 2016, the province allowed 2 options, Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, or option A and option B. They actually reversed them. And we stayed on the regular reporting. We stayed with 3-point scale, 4-point scale, 6-point scale, 101-point scale. So we stuck with what was traditionally done. Other school districts switched to 4-point scales. I'm not sure if they went K to 12, but they certainly did K to 9. And they used different words for what those 4-point scales were. So we've got a variety of things, and I don't remember the exact number. It was under 20, I think, different ways that reporting is being done across the province. And so the alignment was chosen to go to 4. And there is some educational research about this, about how accurate is the 101-point scale. You know, does 1% really make a difference? Can a teacher actually tell you what the difference is between an 85 and an 86? And what makes up that difference? So, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But what we know is the fewer indicators there are, the actually more accurate we can be in terms of a reporting of how kids are doing. And why they picked 4 over 5 over 6, I don't have that answer. Is it?
I think what you're hearing, Jared, is that it might be helpful for us to, as a board, have some speaking points related to the change. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I want to hear. Yep.
Okay.
Give me the 30-second elevator speech, why we're doing it.
Right.
You get that down.
Yeah, I can come back there and get that to the superintendent to provide.
Yeah, we can take that back to Stephen, because that would be something that we would ask of him, and he would figure out how we would want that and how that was to happen.
Yes, he may task one of his directors to help him with that.
Yeah, he might, absolutely. So if you have a concept of what kind of information that you would like to see in speaking points to it, please send me an email and I will communicate that back to Stephen.
Ellen?
Yep.
I was absent for Derek's presentation and it wasn't really captured in the minutes, but what did he just voice his concern from his parents' perspective?
He just expressed the concept that the changes to the reporting policy would not necessarily be well received.
But that's probably not just unique to him, is it?
No, but he was the one that kind of mentioned it, and the fact that it has been mentioned with us recently is what stuck in my mind.
Okay. Okay, thanks. It's just what I wanted to hear. Thanks.
Okay. All right, next section, Jared.
I think we'll just stop you if you go through. Right, Helen?
sorry,
We'll just stop Jared if, he's going through the,
Yep,
we'll just stop him if you have any points that.
that's right. Any questions, we'll stop. Yeah.
Was Human and Social Development was just a highlight around mental health literacy, Pro D. The Careers and Skill Development Pilot Program in K to 8. The operations, the CPF, Canadian Parents for French chapter, looking into the Welcome Initiative.
My thing is, what we do for one, let's do for them all.
Mm.
I think if we're gonna welcome a French teacher to the airport, let's welcome everybody.
And I respond to that. I think many schools do in their own ways. This is a bit of a formalized program to help support for French teachers, but it's a good point. Is can we take some gems out of this, and how do we translate to every one of our new teachers?
If many do, we don't want two teachers sitting down new teachers sitting down talking from two different schools, and one say, hey, they welcomed me to the airport, they drove me home, you know, they wanted to know if I need anything. And the other go, they did nothing for me.
I'm happy to report that many of our teachers are getting picked up at the airport.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, we don't,
staying
you know,
in
we don't want to say many of them do it.
Right,
It would be nice to say we all do it.
right.
But I think we are doing that. Like I attended I've attended the new teacher orientation in the past, and it's open to anybody that comes, even people that came partway through the year before. They can hook up with it in September. And there also is a get together that's set up for any new teachers through the whole district that want to be part of. So there is district reach out for sure.
I thought I recall you saying something about like picking them up at the airport.
I think there's a lot of efforts that principals put into place, but making sure that people are welcomed in the community, whether it's a pickup at the airport or do you need a place to stay. The district does provide some hotel nights for new folks coming into town. So oftentimes they'll come and stay at a hotel before finding someplace to live. Sometimes it's staying with a principal or other teachers.
Any way we can retain.
Right.
We got to recruit, but then retain them. Too.
Yes. Yeah, it is definitely rolling out the red carpet, and not just for the day they arrive, but throughout that entire year to make sure that they feel welcome and they're warm, they're fed, they're loved.
David just asked us, I think she doesn't see the screen up there.
I would love to be part of that. Because
I'm saying the same thing too.
that would just
You
be
guys need
my
it.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
That would make me feel really good.
Again, can I speak? This is a very specific initiative around the French teachers coming to. So the takeaway from this will be something we bring to HR, and then that will roll out at some point. And to Jared's point, there is lots of schools that are taking initiatives to do that. We can't speak to who's picking who up at the airport, and I'm not sure that's something we could promise, but it is definitely, I don't know if someone picks you up at the airport or not. It's really just making you feel welcome long-term in the community, which I believe we have plans.
When you bring in the HR, there's a few of us that were willing to help.
Very good. Yeah, for sure.
Willing.
Please call.
Put that down, thank you. The fitness class was also part of HR. Truth and Reconciliation, we had some work around the local education agreements that's ongoing, and the Indigenous Pro D Day on May 5th, and the equity scan.
So Leah, I think I gave the wrong date when I spoke to that earlier. So it is the Thursday, January 26th. And I think I said the 27th. So we'll have to make sure that's captured correctly.
In the take three, we had some highlights from December at Buick and Hudson's Hope with their Christmas concerts, fundraising at Energetic Learning Campus, and some neat activities going on at Bird Boats.
Okay. The other piece that was part of Stephen's report is the Human Resources Summary Report for Teachers. It's pretty basic. we don't usually end up asking any questions about it, but just to note that that was there ahead of the superintendent's report that Jared just presented. Let's look, and remember, this is the proposed 3-year calendar. Any questions related to that?
Yeah, Hudson's Hope is always different. I'm wondering, that's continuing? They're gonna have some additional days, or are we gonna see that proposed calendar?
Yes, so this is the piece that kicks that off. And so if this is accepted today, we will start working with Hudson's Hope and Upper Halfway, with both have a local calendar. And the principals there will start to fill in their dates. They just need to know what the district dates are to work around for their own. And Hudson's Hope usually has five other Hudson's Hope days that they put in, and they add to the minutes of their schedules to facilitate that. And then Upper Halfway has a 4-day school week from Monday through Thursday. And so the principal there will look at where we have Pro-D days that land on Fridays or other statutory holidays that land on Fridays. Then we have to work out where in lieu's would happen. Because those Pro-D days, we would still have those staff members work. So they can come into town and attend those Pro-D days, but then they get a lieu day, usually the next Monday, depending on how the calendar lands. So those local calendars would kick off this week, and that information would be compiled and then shared out to those communities for parents to be able to comment on their proposed local calendar.
And I know, Jared, last year, Nicole and I don't know how it happened, but we were part of the meeting when the proposed calendar was put together. And I mean, I've been at calendar meetings before, but Nicole hadn't. And when the proposed calendar then came up at our board meeting, she had a much greater body of knowledge. And I'm not sure I didn't see an invite to a trustee to that initial meeting. And I know there have been trustees present in the past.
Yeah, we did discuss that in our diarized memo on that. The stakeholders groups had not included the trustees in the past, but we certainly can invite them in the future.
Okay, I think Ida's off screen before, but I certainly remember trustee presence previously before my time as a trustee. Madeline?
Obviously you did present it with a caution that a lot of these dates are set in stone. I'm still gonna ask questions if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yes.
On the 23-24. So if I read it correctly, Good Friday, Easter was within the spring break.
Yes.
And then on the 25-26, you're gonna have kids come back to school on a Monday, and then they're back out. Friday is Good Friday. So those are my questions. Thinking, well, that doesn't look very.
Right. So in contract, it specifies when spring break starts. And the board in the past has supported a 2-week spring break, one being the regular week, and then the other 4 or 5 days being a closure period. And whether it's 4 or 5 depends on where Easter lands. So the years where Good Friday lands in the spring break period, the closure period is only for 4 days rather than 5 days. So we're not really able to change Easter. And the board in the past has supported and sought feedback of the community around 2 weeks. And I think over time it's been reiterated that 2 weeks is the preference for spring break.
Yeah. Nicole?
Yeah, I would just tell Madeline, when I was a part of that meeting 2 years ago or last year, it all becomes very clear, Madeline, why something that doesn't make a lot of sense like that, like why you'd go back on a Monday, just have Good Friday the next Friday. It's all about the contract and there's no wiggle room. Because yeah, it makes sense if you're at that meeting, which is what Helen, I think, is talking about. It gave me good insight into,
yeah,
there was really very little to debate. One question about Hudson's Hope is just Jared and other trustees that have more experience. I'm assuming that's a staff wish. Like Derek never talks about, like, is that a retaining thing? Does it retain his staff? Like, as a mother, it's a bit like, as a community member, all the extra days off aren't great for a working parent. Mm-hmm. But I believe the kids love it and the staff love it. I was just wondering if there's ever, what's the conversation been around that? Or has it just been happening for so long we keep it happening?
I do believe it was a retention piece. It is also to provide staff an opportunity to get into Fort St. John for appointments of different kinds. So retention is definitely the key piece there.
Ida?
Yeah, I was there when they were first started that with Hudson's Hope, and it was a staff, but it also was at the meeting when the parents were there. They were saying they wanted extra days to schedule in appointments for their kids. So it was a both.
Yeah, like I said, my kids love it. So if they heard me right now, even asking a question, they would slap me. So
No, I remember it being parents as well, as part of that. I think what happened is we started it, and Jared can help me here, because memories, I think we started it with Upper Halfway and the rural schools. And then when Hudson Hope saw it being done there, we talked about it fitting for Hudson Hope too. So it's been a while.
okay,
I
thank
think
you.
I think that's the case, Chair. And we have a minimum hours of instruction that we do have to provide. And so if a local calendar or the district were to add days here and there, it just makes the days longer throughout the school year.
Yeah, because
Okay.
Upper Halfway still does the fours, right?
The other thing that we've talked about is, well, sorry, go ahead, Ida.
Yeah, and the one other thing on that is we could only do it at schools that had their own busing.
Yeah.
Like that the busing didn't have to coordinate anywhere. So that was a big thing too, why certain schools got it.
Yeah, because at one point there was, when that started to happen, there was a number of schools that were quite interested, but the costs, if every single school had their own calendar in terms of busing, was exorbitant. So parameters. All right. Moving on then to, can I have somebody make the motion related to, make the motion that the Board of Education adopt the out-of-district field trips for Taylor, Presbyterian, North Peace, the International in Careers, Hudson's Hope Elementary, Clearview, and Bird Ambrose as presented. Moved by Ida, seconded by Nicole. Calling the question, all in favor? Moving on to community coaches, I'm looking for somebody to move that the Board of Education adopt the following community coaches as presented: Brooklyn Phillips for Bird Ambrose, Michelle Elliott for Bird Ambrose, and Jason Card for Bird Ambrose. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Nicole, seconded by, I can't see the Zoom room, so, hey, David, I got your hand. You beat Bill. Okay, calling the question then, all in favor? Carried. All right. Thank you very much, Jared. You got peppered a little bit, but.
Excuse me, Helen, I don't think we've accepted Stephen's reports.
Oh.
Made up, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can we please accept Stephen's report?
Sorry, I don't think we have a mover and a seconder either.
I know, so I need a mover and seconder for that. Ida and David, now we'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. I wasn't there for you to nudge.
Sorry, Chair. There was also out of district trips for Eco Central and ELC that under the new document. I'm not sure if that's.
Okay, well, I didn't have that. So can I have, we've done one motion that did all of the new ones. Can I have another motion for the two schools that were added, their field trips, please?
Bill, put your hand up.
Okay, moved by Nicole, seconded by Ida. Missed you, Bill.
She just can't see you.
Okay. So Leah, is that okay with you? We'll do two motions for the out of district field trips. the
Yep.
ones that were part of the original agenda package for the first one, and then the additions for the second one? Okay, Madam Secretary Treasurer, works?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Your turn.
Yes. I have quite a full report today. I have the finance update to December 31st. As an attachment, I have the ministry funding for the current year, the updated amounts that came out in December. I have the 2023-24 operating budget consultation process. I have a link to the public sector executive compensation disclosures. I have a link as well to the statement of financial information report. I have an update on CUPE bargaining. And then I have our human resource support staff summary from December 8th to January 18th. And that is my report.
All right. Shall we start by looking at the financial update to December 31st? Any questions for Angela related to that?
Yes. The retro pay coverage. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So then we managed, thanks to our amazing payroll department, to get the teachers and exempt staff and principals and vice principals paid with their retro pay, as well as their new salaries moving forward. So for teachers, there was step increases, as well as I think it was a 3.2. I'm not going to say it correctly. So there was a percentage increase, and then there was also for AOs and executive staff, there was also increases. So I got to give kudos to our payroll team. They managed to get it implemented. I'm not too sure how, because it was a pretty short turnaround. So that retro pay coverage is what we paid out in retro pay for, it would be for July to December 31st. Now, I don't have, which will make it very interesting once amended budget comes up, we don't have what we're actually getting from the ministry to cover any increases. So we were told we were going to get them early 2023. I had an email with the ministry, and we heard that we may get them in by March, end of March now. So I just put this number in because we didn't estimate any increases to wages on our annual budget, because that is how we were asked to proceed, because we had no idea what the increases might be. So I just thought I should put a retro pay coverage in there just to make it a little more reflective of what is actually going on in the district right now. And I feel confident that at minimum, I'm going to get 462,980,000 to cover those increases. So
That doesn't include CUPE at this point.
no, there's been no, it only includes money that was actually paid out. So
Okay.
no CUPE payments can occur until the CUPE collective agreement is ratified. So
Okay. Okay. Any other questions related to that financial update?
shall I move on to the ministry funding?
I think so. Yep.
So there's a 3-page document here. It kind of, the summary of the 2022-23 announcement is straight from the ministry. So that really speaks to what is happening provincially, the increase, decrease. So overall, they've seen an increase of 2% from September 2022, for September 2022 from September 2021. So that's could be an effect of kids coming back to school or people moving into the country. I can't really speak to the rationale behind that, but I was gonna give Jared a little pat on the back here because our numbers came in for our actual brick and mortar school. We did come in as 70 higher than what we estimated for the annual budget. So we had 70 more students than we estimated, which is good. People are coming back to the district, or they're moving into town. We did estimate, this is where I can't tap us on the back anymore. We did have a decrease we had estimated 190 students in distance ed, and we got 130 FTE. So that was quite a difference in that one. There was an increase in the way the annual budget, I should do a little hit. The annual budget is based on the numbers we estimate we're going to get come September of the following year. So the students that are actually going to show up in the schools. The interim operating grant summary that is shown here is what actually occurred September 30th. So it's the snapshot from September. So that's the funding. There's a couple more funding windows coming up, but the majority of the funding has occurred at this point. So we saw increased numbers for special needs in two levels. We saw an increase in our ELL, increase in Indigenous education. So overall, there was additional amounts to what we had in the amended budget. That being said, the special needs funding for the smaller schools, 80% goes to the schools. So a smaller school is everything except for North Peace, Burt Bowes, and Dr. Kearney. So that goes directly back to the schools to support kids. And sorry, I'm telling a story. Is that why you were looking at me? I was testing Jared, and he caught on. So the smaller schools get 90% of the funds, and then the larger schools get 80%.
Passed. Congratulations.
Good job. Oh, I saw him sweating over there, and then I started to sweat. So win-win. So overall, we did see a funding increase, but in those categories of the level special needs, ELL, and Indigenous education, those are not funds that I get to spend. Yeah, those go directly to support those children. So I did get an additional 70 up here, so I'm pretty happy. Then we also have another window coming up in the distance at the key. So our distance learning program, they have another funding window for February, and then they have another one in May. And another something new that we get to do this February in our 1701 count is we get to claim any new refugees, students that have come to the district, which is not anything we've historically been able to do. So that's a good opportunity for the district. And then we also have a second funding window for our special needs students as well. So all in all, those are the changes that came up. A little bit of wiggle room, but I'll take it. So
Any questions of Angela related to that?
All in all, we're looking okay.
We have a bit more money, so, all in all, are we looking okay? You will hear that next month. But all in all, yes, I believe I'll get to keep my job, so.
And we can do.
And you can as well, so. Now here is the operating budget consultation. So I've added a few, just a few minor changes, and then trying to get the online public surveys out a bit quicker than we did last year, and give, try to get them out in March right before spring break, and then boost them monthly so that maybe we get a bit more interest. Someone's got a boring spring break planned, they hit the survey. I'm trying. So I've given last year, trying to consult with Indigenous bands and Métis groups. I had a pretty tight turnaround time, so I've given myself 2 months to meet people, and then to try to make them in March. But then if I get to, I'm buying myself more time here. Same with the department heads, so that we can have a few more back and forths and discussions. And then I think everything else is pretty much status quo. Actually, I've seen an error. I have the consult with Indigenous bands and Métis groups twice. I have it April 1st to 29th, which was my initial one. So now I've given myself 2 months here. So yeah, so this is nothing too big in changes, but if it isn't broke, we won't fix it. I also added the budget deep dive with trustees here, 12:30 to 1:30, because then it's a scheduled time instead of me saying, hey, do you guys want to swing by and dive in? So that'll be prior to the committee of the whole meeting. So
Thank you for making sure that was on there.
well, I'm slowly learning, Helen. I'm getting
No,
there.
it's just, it's important for us to know too. And then we've got that time carved out well ahead of time.
Yeah. Any
Great.
comments or questions? Oh, sorry, Helen.
No, you were going to say the same thing I was.
I know, but
It's okay. All right. Next item, Miss Angela.
the public sector executive compensation disclosures. So that is something mandated by the government, the Ministry of Education. It outlines what we pay to our CEO, and then to the next 4 highest paid decision makers earning greater than 125,000. This is done to provide transparency and accountability for the compensation paid to executives in the public sector. So it's really about transparency. Everyone knows make sure that we're aligned with what the ministry's suggestions are. So, and there is a link to that there. The statement of financial information report is again a government document that the government requires. It outlines everyone in the district that is paid over 75,000, vendors that we pay over 25,000, and then it shows a reconciliation of seeing as wages are our highest expenses. It shows a reconciliation with wages, supplies, any variables that come in to make up our like our surpluses, our asset requirements, different. So there's a reconciliation sheet in there that a reconciliation of our spending. And again, this one is about transparency and accountability. Keep going.
Unless anybody's got any questions. The pages in there that go through the different kinds of risks in the SOFI report are good background for us.
It's a document that's full of information, and it has lots of it's not a transparent document for staff to do. So it's good. You're required to link it just kind of brings everything home. So, okay, QP bargaining update. Well, we bargained for 4 days, and then we had some additional meetings after that, and then we have settled. I think we've sent the local table allocation and the memorandum of agreement to the QP executive. We just did last week, so we haven't heard anything back. I was hoping to have it that we would be able to ratify it at this meeting, but it looks like we're going to have to call a special public meeting to ratify the agreement once QP reviews it, to ensure we've captured everything in the package that they were hoping to see. If I brought it forward at this meeting without having any feedback from them, then we would be ratifying it potentially twice. So we're waiting to hear back from them, and then I'll send out when everyone is email seeing when everybody is available, and then we will ratify. We can ratify, call a special meeting and ratify. So
What's the date that we have to have it ratified by, Angela, just so people have that in mind?
yeah, the initial was the 25th of January, but they've extended us, I believe, to February 15th.
Okay.
14th, February 14th.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day gift, yes. So again, it's really just being cautious and not having you do the same thing twice. Just because who knows if there's a tweak or two that needs to occur, so.
And basically that would be the same as the teacher's contract. Based on the Supreme Court decision, we have an involvement of the full board in that
Yeah.
ratification vote.
Yeah, we're still good.
Okay, just clarifying.
Yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, any questions on the HR support staff summary? We have some new
Okay.
assignments to the district, so that's a very positive move that I like to see.
Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for Angela's report? Moved by Madeline, seconded by Ida. All in favor of accepting her report? Thank you. All right, we're looking at the minutes of the regular committee of the whole meeting, which is pages 17 to 18 in your packages. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by David. Any errors or omissions? Calling the question then, all in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. I didn't see any, but if I'm wrong, let me know. Okay. Great. 9.3 Policy Committee. Just a reminder that our next meeting will be February the 6th at 12:30. That's Monday prior to our committee of the whole. And we're hoping that that we've moved it there, so everybody's there and we're sort of cutting out one step. All right. Bill, when's the agenda setting meeting for that?
Good question.
When you know, just clarify for me later, okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's the week before, but I'm not sure what day it is. My computer shut down and just trying to start it back up.
yeah, no problem. Other reports, BCSTA, trustee Gillis.
Nothing to report. I'll be going to provincial council in Vancouver on February 23rd. That's about it.
Okay. BCPC, Vice Chair Lehman.
The AGM coming up this week, Thursday, Friday. There will be 2 resolutions to vote on, plus election for the NIB. And I do forward the correspondence that I do get from BCPC, and I'm learning as I go. I try to forward the things that might not be for trustees in conflict, that I'll not forward that to everybody, and the rest I try to forward to everybody. So should you ever miss any correspondence, probably because I've thought it's not for the whole group, but I try.
So Madeline, is there anything we can do to support you in speaking to the resolution that you get to speak to? Our resolution, or you got it all?
Yeah. It is a straightforward resolution. I feel the rationale is very comprehensive and well laid out. And I like to hope to think together, even with Stephen's presentation here on Saturday, that should there be questions, I'd like to hope to think I'll be able to answer. How's that?
Okay, and we do. Yeah, right. And we do know that we have 2 people from the north that are running, and in some we've got a little bit of a bio. I guess what I thought might be and there is always the potential for a nomination from the floor. So I guess what I thought might be helpful for you to hear from us at this point is what are the qualities and characteristics we think we would like in our BCPC rep. So you've got that frame when you vote on our behalf for who will be the NIB member.
Yes, I was gonna discuss that because I would like to go down knowing what the board would like to vote for. I'm not sure, can we do this in the public meeting or does it need to go into in camera?
Well, if we are looking at just the characteristics of what would make a good BCPC rep, I was thinking about that afterwards, and I know it's a bit of a change up. I think it's the will of the group.
Mm-hmm.
The names.
Well, I don't think I'm gonna say the names here.
Ida?
Yeah, at the NIB, was there any talk about a preference with any of them?
No, it was asked about, but because it is the NIB itself, so the NIB can't really vote against itself. So that's why the 2 that put their name forward, we couldn't say preference, like the NIB cannot prefer one over the other, right?
No, but like, was there, did they give speeches and did they
No,
talk about it at all at the NIB?
no.
Angela?
So that question came up at NIB, and the whole province votes for the NIB rep. So we can't they can't support anyone without it would just look bad to the people who are running.
No, but what I was wondering is the year that we had Cheryl and Jared both running out of the NIB, at our NIB meeting, they both gave quite a speech about why they wanted to run to the
No.
NIB. Okay,
I did
so
not-
Madeline, then you'll just have to listen down there to the two of them.
But-
Like, I don't know what else to say.
Well-
Not yet. I don't know, we could.
I think what we'll do is if we're not going to discuss the specifics of each individual, because there could still be somebody step forward from the floor. So my thought was that okay, what do we think we want in a BCPC rep? And those are Madeline's listen fors, and she makes a decision, and the conversation we have right now, because we are in a public meeting, is only related to those generalities.
I agree.
And if people are more comfortable than with continuing this in camera, we can do that. But if we're not endorsing a person, I switched it up. So. Ida?
So one of the things, Madeline, that I think that you should listen for is if they have experience in like a human relationship type thing, or like what their background at all is in that.
Okay.
Like, for example, have they sat on a personnel committee and things like that?
So background related to HR. The other thing that had occurred to me would have been some involvement in the bargaining process at the board table.
Perhaps also, I don't know if you can do this or not, but if there's some longevity to them, so if they don't see that they're gonna be in conflict next year or next month. Because with that conflict of interest, it just makes no sense to elect somebody who's gonna join a public union next month, or their husband's going to, or, you know, I know you can't really vote that way, but it certainly could be just a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, you're right, because it is a 3-year position.
And then just again, obviously, we should be hearing somebody talk about the North, the voice of the North, hearing from the North. I know the whole province votes on it, but you know, we need somebody who at least identifies North, rural, remote, and says the right things in that regard, because we have different challenges.
Also, if they've been the BCPC rep for their board.
Oh, those are good, helpful points. I'm gonna keep an ear out on those.
Yeah, and sorry about that bit of that switch up there, but this keeps it at that level that's different. And I just thought would be important, especially when we don't know if a third person could emerge. So to look at personality, it's more, what do we want? So you've got that lens. Okay. All right. Stephen and I haven't yet had a chance to fully flesh out what we're looking at for our advance on March March the 6th. It is a Monday. We are looking at supper on Sunday night with meetings all day on Monday. as soon as he and I have been able to sync some things, we will put something tentatively together, or a meeting, and involve everybody that wants to be part of in the planning of that day. Just, oh God, there you go. Right. I don't have any correspondence. I don't think we have any unfinished business. Don't have anything under new business. And I don't think we have PRNTA there, or QP, or District Parent Advisory Council. Right? So and I don't think we have any other questions from the press and or public. So I need a motion to, he's got his hand up, but what we're going to do, we're not going to adjourn, because we're going to move into in camera. And if there's motions that come out of in camera, so I need a motion to move to the in-camera meeting.
You better give it to Bill.
Moved by Bill, seconded by David. So can I have a motion? So all in favor of moving into in-camera? Thank you. We'll give people a 5-minute bio break. So Madeline, I had intended to talk to you about that switch up. So we can stop recording now, Leah.
I'm trying to get there fast.
Okay.